Hey, it's Dr. Kyrin. Welcome back to another episode of Her Brilliant Health Radio. Have you heard that fasting is what you need to do to lose weight and regain your health, but you can't make it past skipping breakfast without wanting to eat the wallpaper? I can relate. Maybe you've made it without food for a couple of days, but you failed to see the results you were promised and wonder why. Or you've heard that you can actually eat a certain way and trick your body into thinking it's fasting and still get the health benefits, and you really want to know, how can I do this and not hurt myself? In this episode, the Green Smoothie Girl breaks down what fasting mimicking is and helps you understand if it's right for you. Known as the Green Smoothie Girl, Robyn Openshaw is a former psychotherapist and university professor who educates people through her Vibe podcast and other media about how to heal their bodies using natural treatments so that they can shed weight, get off prescription medications, and have the vitality that they deserve. Her 15 books include several bestsellers, including my favorite, Vibe, Unlock the Energetic Frequencies of Limitless Health, Love, and Success. Robyn lost 70 pounds and shed 21 health diagnoses she had been given after making the changes to her lifestyle that she now teaches. She's here today to help us understand fasting mimicking diets. Are they helpful or just a bunch of hype? Welcome, Robyn.
Thank you. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you. So how did you get interested in fasting?
Well, it's just been a progression. I'm a researcher, and when I got my health back, as you said in my bio, I had a very, very sick baby, and he was on every kind of drug you could give a 1-year-old. I mean, antibiotics and bronchodilators for his life-threatening asthma. He was in and out of hospitals and emergency rooms. He was vaccine injured. He was allergic to everything, and he was on steroids. And when I changed our diet, it turned everything around. So I became really committed to, okay, stuff that they don't teach you in medical school, stuff that I'm not going to get in the room with the person in the white coat. No offense. I'm sure none taken.
None taken.
Yeah. Is what's going to, save us. And so, when we had such a radical turnaround for my little boy who was failure to thrive, in and out of hospitals, constantly in emergency room visits or doctor's visits, turned it all around. He ended up being this 6'3", all-state baseball player because at between 1 year and 2 years old, I figured it out, got him off of dairy, got him off of sugar, got him off of processed food altogether, and got him off all the drugs altogether too. And none of my 4 children, because he was the first, would ever be on an antibiotic. None of them have ever been on an antibiotic in the last 25 years since then. So I just kept going. And honestly, this discovery of, I don't call it fasting mimicking diet because that's Dr. Longo's trademarked term, but we could also more simply call it a modified fast, has been the second biggest game changer in terms of health. I think that the research coming out about modified fasting is the most exciting thing of this past decade. And of course, now we've just entered a new decade.
Right.
But maybe this century, honestly, the science that's coming out is, it's probably the most exciting thing I've discovered in this last 25 years of research, second only maybe to the green smoothie. Because, when I discovered green smoothies, I would take them onto a baseball field and everyone sitting around me would say, "What is that? That's disgusting." Well, nobody would do that now. Everybody's used to green smoothies now. But when I went online with GreenSmoothieGirl.com 13 years ago, it was a phenomenon. There were 50 people a month worldwide searching on the term green smoothie. See, everybody else doesn't think about that, but literally nobody knew what a green smoothie was 13 years ago, and now it's a household term. I think modified fasting is the second biggest or the other biggest breakthrough discovery about health and wellness of my adult lifetime.
And so talk a little bit about the science, because I know there's some amazing science behind it and all the health benefits, not just weight loss. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, people are really motivated by weight loss, but usually if you talk to someone who has significant amount of weight to lose, they're going to also tell you about their second biggest and third biggest complaints. And it's amazing, like they could be diabetic, but they're more concerned about their weight loss. listen, it's not just all about weight loss. Weight loss is a nice byproduct when you do a modified fast once a month. My goal in the next 10 years is to help people understand how incredibly powerful it is to do a 3-day modified fast where you don't have to go hungry. But what scientists are discovering everywhere from USC on the West Coast to Johns Hopkins, coast to coast, there are researchers discovering that you don't actually have to completely go hungry. You don't even have to necessarily be hungry to achieve the benefits of fasting. Now, most people who are into health and wellness, they're somewhat aware that fasting is really, really good for me, but they also aren't willing to do it. And
Right.
I was on lecture tour for 6 years. I spoke in 450 cities in 6 years, and I met many, many people who told me that unless they had food poisoning or stomach flu, they had never missed a meal. And that's really never happened before in the history of the world, until this industrialized age where we're generation 7 or something of people having food available
Continuously.
Yeah, I just, people would go hungry accidentally. Just
Right.
a matter of, well, it's winter and we only put up so much food, or there's a famine or whatever. Like, people have had periods of eating a modified fast since forever. And that's also linked to being very low in cancer and low in heart disease. But to answer your question more directly, the research that's coming out about what modified fasting can accomplish is mind-blowing, all the way from neurodegenerative disease, where researchers have discovered you can actually regenerate the myelin sheath with multiple sclerosis or other neurodegenerative issues. You got Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis, Alzheimer's, dementias, ALS. What a terrifying disease that is. And modern medicine, I'm not telling you anything, but modern medicine has absolutely nothing to offer to regenerate myelin sheath, which is the underlying problem in the central nervous system that has led to an epidemic of neurodegenerative disease. But there's a multi-pronged set of benefits for either a cancer patient or someone who's trying to avoid cancer in the first place. Happy to go deeper on that. There are heart disease benefits. People who do even a 3-day modified fast periodically, whether it's quarterly or monthly, they discover quick drops in their blood pressure, in their total cholesterol, and their C-reactive protein, which, as you know, is probably the primary marker of systemic inflammation. Big drops quickly while eating. There's a certain amount you can eat, a certain type of food you can eat for a certain period of time that you can see the same or better potentially benefits as fasting. So we've mentioned heart disease, neurodegenerative disease, cancer. There are studies showing that for diabetics, that doing a modified fast regenerates those insulin-producing beta cells and reverses symptoms of both type 1 and type 2 diabetes. So that's 4 categories we've just touched on lightly. There's anti-aging effects, that when you take your body into autophagy, and if you ask me about autophagy, I'd love to go there.
Yeah.
That we mass produce stem cells. I mean, there's people who are going in for $8,000 stem cell injections, right? Guess what? Do a modified fast and your body's going to mass produce stem cells and mobilize your immune system. With a strong immune system, you can withstand exposure to bacterial infections and viruses. And with a strong immune system, your body is staying on top of the fact that you produce aberrant cells every day, probably an average of about 50,000 aberrant cells a day. I mean, technically we all have cancer. It's just a matter of whose cancer has gotten the upper hand.
Right.
Your immune system.
Right. That's what I like to explain to people all the time, is that you make potential cancers every single day, but your immune system comes behind and fixes it before it becomes cancer. And so Our goal is to get your immune system in tip-top shape, which depends on hormonal balance and all kinds of things. But let's talk about, so I know people listening are thinking, oh, I need that. Their ears are perked up. Who doesn't need stem cells, an influx of stem cells in their body, and all the other health benefits that you mentioned? And some people might be confused about, well, what are they talking about? What does this look like? What is modified fasting? So there's fasting where you don't eat food. And then there's also, I've heard of dry fasting where you don't even have liquids. So what is modified fasting?
So modified fasting is this breakthrough discovery that if you keep your calories to 800 a day or fewer, and it's entirely plant-based, and you might go for a little bit higher protein and fat within that 800 calories, just for satiety mostly, so that you don't have a really high hunger level. You can eat 800 calories, and I recommend that you do it in 4 or probably 5 mini meals a day. So we're talking about 150 calories at a time. Do it within an eating window. And so 800 calories a day, plant-based, keep it within an eating window of 12 hours or less. Okay, if you're up for it, keep it to an eating window of 8 hours. And that sort of leads us into a conversation about autophagy.
Yeah. So tell everyone what that is.
Yes. So autophagy, the more sophisticated understanding of it, actually won a Nobel Prize in 2016. So it's a fairly recent discovery. To really understand this concept of autophagy means self-eating.
Yeah.
And this kind of goes to what you said, is how you bring down the idea of cancer prevention to layperson's terms, is that the body, when deprived of the 2,000 calories a day or 3,000 calories a day that most of us are eating, when they're deprived of all of their food or most of their food, they go into a state of autophagy where the body scavenges broken parts. So it's going to go after belly fat because belly fat is unnecessary. It's going to go after cancerous growth, which, as we've discussed, we all have. Now, we don't necessarily have a big mass on our ovary that's developed a vascular system and is compromising our health, but there might be clusters of 10,000 cells or 500,000 cells. I mean, generally speaking, it's not going to come to your attention until there's a cluster of 1 million cells or more. So guess what? In autophagy, deprived of food, the body goes after aberrant cells, like cancer cells. It goes after aberrant growth or structures such as bacteria that colonizes in the body, or mold or fungus or viral infections. I mean, lots and lots of us are walking around with parasites for a variety of reasons, or we have an underlying Epstein-Barr infection that we don't know about. It hasn't made us sick yet because our immune system is staying a little ahead. But you know, when you got this many bad guys and your immune system is right here, you're getting close to not being in balance. Okay, you want your immune system to be here and the bad guys to be down here. I mean, we all have, for instance, candida, right? We all have yeast.
Right.
The problem is when we get more yeast than our immune system can break down and metabolize. The yeast gets the upper hand, or the cancer gets the upper hand, or the bacterial infection gets the other hand. So we just want our immune system optimized. And where it's optimized is where it's not having to fight 8 different wars at once. So autophagy allows you to put the body into rebuilding maintenance work. Okay, rest, rebuild, repair, break stuff down so that it can then rebuild. And so after a modified fast, what you eat afterwards is super important, because the refeeding process is where all those broken down parts from autophagy are now rebuilt. Broken down parts of cells, if we get right down to the micro level of it. Broken down parts of the pancreas, organs or glands. Broken parts or old parts are broken down in the process of autophagy. So the longer or the more often that you do a modified fast, the more powerful the benefits. And you know, I could say, well, you have to, you know, it has to be a water fast and you have to water fast for a week. That's really unthinkable to most people. I've done it. I've done a 12-day water fast where I had no food, but I can't work. My brain is foggy. I'm literally in bed with a laptop watching Netflix. You know, like I have to take time off work. I have absolutely done it. In the last several years, before I discovered modified fasting, I had done 4 water fasts of 7 to 12 days, 4 times. And people might think, were you sick? Well, I wasn't. I just knew the science on fasting, and I was like, this is a good use of my vacation time. It wasn't very fun use of my vacation time.
But it's great maintenance for the body. You know, everybody listening really needs to understand that as your regular doctors, you're not getting instructions on proper, you know, quarterly or monthly detox, depending on what your health status is. And you're not getting information about how you could be manipulating what you're eating and doing this type of modified fasting to get the health benefits. And that's why doctor's office is about treatment of disease with drugs and surgery, but we're talking about is if you want a higher level of care, you want to heal naturally, you want to stay out of that doctor's office. And I don't take offense at any of that because I practiced that type of medicine for years. When you know better, you do better. And my own health suffered for it. And now I enjoy a higher quality of life because I've taken the steps like we're talking about to make my body go into autophagy and get rid of all that stuff. You know, it's like your closet, right? You got to go through your closet frequently and get rid of all the stuff that you don't need or want anymore, because otherwise it clutters up energetically your house. And the same thing is happening in your body. You really want to have that autophagy going on to clear out the debris and get rid of it so that your body can put its energy to creating healthy cells that replace this. So what are some tools that you give people to help them know how to do this? Because they're listening and they're thinking, I need that. I want to eat and be fasting and get the benefits. So how do they get started?
Yeah, so I have 2 options for you. One is if you read my little book, it's called How to Get the Health Benefits of Fasting Without Going Hungry. How to Get the Health Benefits of Fasting Without Going Hungry. And you can give them a link to it. Free little book. You can read this little book in an hour. The reason to read the book isn't just to understand what the well-proven published research benefits are of modified fasting, but it'll get you excited about it. It'll get you to actually make that leap and try it. So it's like you said, when you know better, you do better. So this is your know better.
Yes.
And then for the how of it, that's the why of it, but for the how of it, another free gift that you can point them to, you can give your followers a link, is you can give them our 3-day modified fasting eating plan. And that 3-day eating plan gives you the exact calories, because it's important that you keep your nutrient density high, but your calories no higher than 800. Now, will you get some of the benefits if you get 810 calories? I'm sure you will. I'm sure that's not a magical number, but those are the studies coming out through, for instance, Dr. Walter Longo's research team and Sebastian Brandenhorst at USC. And they're probably right now the most prolific of the researchers in modified fasting. I mean, they seem to be really quite devoted to it full time. And they're doing clinical trials. They're coming out with just mind-blowing results. Like most good researchers, they start with a hypothesis and then they do animal studies. So they have mice and rat studies, and then they take it into human populations. And I believe, I'm not sure if they published it yet. I have a little bit of inside information on a clinical trial that they, I think, may have published. I haven't seen what they actually published about it regarding cancer, because they had such powerful results in their animal trials. So So those are the two resources that you can share is our 3-day modified fasting eating plan.
Mm-hmm.
And that's so you can just do it yourself. And this little book, How to Get the Health Benefits of Fasting Without Going Hungry, so that you understand how powerful this is. I mean, I'm not making claims that modified fasting reverses all these modern plagues, all these degenerative diseases that we've come to think are some kind of like cosmic accident that just happened here in the modern world. And there's like 100-fold rise in 2 generations of these diseases. I'm not making claims about it. I'm just telling you what these many, many research studies are telling us about what happens when you do a 3-day modified fast. And I would say for people who are healthy and they're just doing it as a preventative, like me, do it quarterly. If you have weight to lose, I mean, I did my first trial of 100 people on a 3-day modified fasting, following all of the parameters. I had an average weight loss in those 100 people of 4 pounds in 3 days.
Right, that's amazing. And just even as you're talking, I'm thinking that the standard HCG diet, well, if you don't do the HCG, that's 6 weeks, that's really a modified fasting. So you're probably going to get these improvements there as well. And I think it all really started when they were looking at just calorie restriction and how that improved health parameters as well. And people have kind of taken it further and further to the point where, like you said, they got that kind of semi-magic number of 800 and found that you can get the benefits. So you had people doing 3 days and losing 4 pounds.
3
That's
days,
awesome.
that was the average weight loss was 4 pounds. The highest I've seen, because now we've had a couple thousand people that we're tracking on a modified fast, and I've seen people lose as much as 6.8 pounds. And some people are going to say, oh, some of that is water weight. You can't lose 6.8 pounds in 3 days. And I would agree with you, but I want to point something out about what that water is. People think if you lose water weight in a 3-day modified fast, that's like water you needed and you got dehydrated. Well, let me share with you that when you see your CRP go way down really quickly, what you're actually seeing is that it's dirty fluids trapped in inflamed cells, where those cell membranes are healing and releasing those trapped dirty fluids. That's a good thing. Just like fat loss is a good thing. That kind of fluid loss is the positive. And the number one thing that people are reporting to us from a 3-day fast, I mean, like pain reduction or like chronic pain disappearing or decreasing is a big one. The biggest one is joints don't hurt anymore. Swelling goes down. My knees don't hurt. This is the first time in 3 years that my knees don't hurt. My fingers aren't sausages anymore. Those are all linked to exactly what I just said, that you've got billions of inflamed cells. Just imagine those cells are like kind of like smoldering. They're like kind of on fire. And 3 days of fasting allows the body to tame the inflammation.
Yeah, I would imagine that you're having people have better sleep, better energy, better mental clarity, less headaches, less sinus congestion, less gastrointestinal dysfunction, less constipation. I mean, usually those are the kinds of things that I see with people who do the modified fasting and even just a simple calorie restriction or shifting to more plant-based, low carb, things like that. But it is particularly dramatic with the modified fasting I've found in people because it is plant-based and they are eating and they're able to do it pretty easily. Don't you find that?
Yeah, it's so easy. Our first 100, where I was collecting lots of numbers from them, the average hunger scale of 1 to 10 that they reported to us was 3.4. So, people did a 3-day fast and their highest hunger level averaged 3.4. Where like if you're ravenously hungry and you'll literally, if you're a vegan, you'll eat a pound of bacon, that's a 10, right? Right. We've all been really, really hungry before. And one is, one is, you couldn't make me eat any food, I'm stuffed. They're at a 3.4. And so again, by following this program, I've sort of decoded it to where it follows what the researchers have learned about how to achieve the health benefits and how to minimize the actual stress or suffering of hunger. 5 mini meals a day of about 150 calories. And you can eat more food if that food is more nutrient dense, low calorie, high nutrition. So it's satisfying, but it's it's not a lot of food.
And then what about people who exercise regularly? And I know they're probably thinking, well, I can't exercise on 800 calories. What do you tell them?
Yeah, funny you should ask that, because when we were doing this research and developing a 3-day modified fast, when I told you when I water fast, I have to fly. I get on an airplane and I go to this ashram in Texas, and it's terrible. It's like a 1-star place. I wouldn't ever say you should go here, but I have to, because I literally don't, and I probably shouldn't say this out loud because I'm just jinxing myself when it comes to fasting. I just cave on like day 2. I end up going to my fridge and eating something and being like, damn it, I'll start over next week. I can't water fast for very long if I'm around food. And so I'd go to this ashram in Texas where they do water fast. So, I mean, that's kind of stupid if you think about it, right? Like I have to get on an airplane and spend money on a round trip flight and go to this place because I can't get a Lyft or an Uber from there. There's no stores. It's this very rural place, and stay in this 1-star, like, bulb hanging from the ceiling place because it's terrible.
That's dramatic, but I get it.
Yeah. And so that's part of why I'm so excited about having decoded how to do modified fasting without being, stressed out, hungry, incapacitated, sitting in bed watching Netflix like I am when I'm doing a water fast. I can't do a 1-mile jog. And I'm a competitive athlete. I turn 53 next month, and I have been playing competitive sports my whole life. I'm a 4-0 tennis player. I'm on a court multiple times. I probably work out or play sports 2 hours a day. And I have done a modified fast 9 times in the last year. And I have played like in a league match where I can't let my team down and we need to win. And it affects my rating, my national ranking. I have played twice on day 2 and day 3 of a 3-day modified fast. And I wouldn't do that. I would not plan to do a modified fast when I have a match, a tournament I have to be in, or a league match that I have to be in. I would not do that if I weren't confident. That's because I've done it enough times to know that I feel great. I'm working full time. I'm playing my competitive sport. I don't have brain fog. I mean, listen, if you're going to do a modified fast and you're a big coffee drinker, don't drink coffee all the way until you do your modified fast. And then on day 1 or 2, when you get the caffeine withdrawal, headaches, blame that on the modified fast. No, that's you coming off of coffee. So go off of coffee 3 days before. Okay. If you want to have a good experience doing a modified fast or fasting, go off the coffee 3 days before. And then generally speaking, you will be absolutely fine.
And then alcohol, that's the other thing people always want to know. Are you going to take my alcohol away?
Yes.
Yes, we are.
Listen, the alcohol is dehydrating, and so is the coffee. And hey, don't get me wrong. I love a glass of wine and a cup of coffee as much as anybody, but it's counterproductive to what you're trying to accomplish during your 3-day fast. So yeah, if you can't live without alcohol for 3 days, then we have another problem.
Yeah, right. We do. And so who are some people who should not do this? There are obviously some.
Pregnant women.
Right.
Women who are nursing, where most of baby's calories are coming from breast milk still. Stage 4 cancer patients in cachexia. Some forms of kidney disease. Okay, if you have a specific serious diagnosis, please go to your practitioner and ask if there are any contraindications for a fast or a modified fast. That's another thing that's nice about a modified fast, is that just about anybody can do it. Don't do a long-term water fast if you're a diabetic and you're on meds. You need to be medically supervised if you're going to do a water fast as a diabetic. But modified fasting makes it much, much safer for more people to access the health benefits.
Yeah, it does, because straight fasting is, I think it's intolerable for most people. I think most people would have to go to a one-star place in Texas to do it. I know I can't do it. I've never been able to do it.
Or if you want to go to a nicer place, go to True North in Santa Rosa. I haven't been because now I've discovered modified fasting. I think I'm done with having to fly somewhere and spend a bunch of money to detox. I'm finding modified fasting so easy that I'll do it for 3 days, every month, every other month, whatever I'm feeling to do. I don't need to fly to the place. But I'm laughing at my one-star thing, but like Santa Rosa, California, True North is a much better place, and it's inexpensive to stay there. I think it's like the price of a hotel room basically, which makes sense since they're feeding you no food. But
right. What are some of the most surprising benefits that you've seen in people who you've worked with who have done the modified fasting?
We had a lady named Dolores who in 3 days saw her pain completely disappear, that she had had nonstop white hot pain for many years, I believe over a decade, and she was just in tears and overjoyed. And so she's made it a regular part of her life. But for me, one of the coolest and most unexpected things is there's a study, and we definitely noticed this in our own now tracking. We've been tracking people for not a super long time, but 4.5 months now. We've had a couple thousand people do a 3-day modified fast, and some of them do it multiple times. So we're in process of gathering data right now. But there's a study that shows increased mental clarity, an increased sense of serenity, and improved energy. And that to me is really exciting, because when I water fast, I have a brain fog, and that's probably the coffee drinking, but also just like a lot of neurotoxins coming through my neurological system, and I don't even eat a lot. I don't eat MSG. I don't have NutraSweet, the things that, people that drink the diet or the sodas and this and that. But even just with coffee, there's going to be some metabolites of these neurotoxins that are going to come through. And with water fasting, I get some brain fog. And with modified fasting, I just quickly go to a place of feeling really peaceful, positive about life, even though I live in a ski town where it is very cold. You see sunshine here? I have not seen this. I told you this, Kyrin. I have not seen this in 10 days. I have not seen the sun in 10 days. But when I do a modified fast, my mood improves so quickly that that's one of the things that makes me keep doing it. So this is one of the exciting things, and I think it helps that you're jacking up your human growth hormone, not the kind you inject, but the kind you make naturally, and your stem cells.
Right. And what are some things, I know people are wondering, well, what are they going to have me eating? Celery sticks. What are some of the foods that you have, like in the eating plan, that you offer for people?
Yeah, so we're going to outline for you a program that's a little bit higher in plant proteins, because that's going to help your satiety. So those 5 small mini meals really get you through. And there might be some days where you're hungry, but you don't actually need to be. So we're going to teach you how to make a green smoothie that you could throw all the greens in there you want to make it a bigger smoothie. But you can have like a fruit a day. You can have a little bit of nuts and seeds, but primarily veggies, a little bit of fruit, greens, okay, nuts and seeds. Those are what we're going to primarily focus on. Okay, so the fats and the protein in the nuts and seeds, and, it's actually pretty high protein in greens. There just aren't very many calories in greens. That just helps you get through without that hunger that'll cause you to fail and go face plant in whatever's in your fridge.
Right. Well, I did a modified fast before, but I'm going to sign up and get your freebies, and I'm going to do it because I think it would be great to make the food myself. I had done some packaged meals, and it just didn't speak to me. It also had some protein bars in it, which I'm not really a fan of manufactured food. I like real food from the ground and earth, real food.
Yep.
So I think there's something to say about the life force that's going to be in that. So I love that you've created a plan that people can do themselves, which is extremely economical, and giving them a guide that they can take food and make it their own and try it. Um, what are any last words you want to offer about any of the tools or information that you've given?
Just to get really clear on what's in between you. So I'm a former psychotherapist. So then there's always the what's going on in your head. Like there's the how to and the why and then the how. So I've definitely dialed that in. But ask yourself, what's in between me and doing like a 3-day modified fast quarterly or twice a year if that seems less daunting to you, or monthly. You know, I mean, if you lose 4 pounds in 3 days, like how easy is that to focus on doing that once a month? If you lost 4 pounds a month, if you did that every single time for 12 months, assuming you're not going to change your eating pattern after that, there are some 6 to 12 month studies that show that people don't gain the weight back. But if you did that, you could lose 48 pounds in a year. My question for you is to do some self-reflecting. If you're intrigued by it, but there's something holding you back, what is that thing that's holding you back? Is it scary to you? Is it scary because you've never missed a meal like so many people told me on my speaking tour for 6 years? If so, you're not alone. You're not alone, and lots of North Americans who are alive today have never missed a meal. But just know that it's not that hard. With an average hunger level of 3.4, there's a lot of gains to be had and a lot of light bulbs that will come on when you eat a specific way for 3 days and all of a sudden your finger joints and your knees don't hurt for the first time in forever. Just start doing some thinking. That'll be my last thought for you is start doing some thinking about what is your fear and how can we help with that? Could it be between the pages of this book that we address how to get you over that hump, because this is such powerful information. Doing a modified fast is the best health preventative that I have encountered in my decades of research about health and wellness.
Right. It's kind of like a jump start for your body. And I love what you shared about that. Why wouldn't you do it? And I want to add on to that. I think it would be great for people to journal. I always have people do journaling when they do any food change about what's changing in their life. So one, to quantify the symptoms they're having, and you can make like a, finger swelling, headaches on a scale of 1 to 5. How are they before and then each day? But also mood, because a lot of people don't realize how much of a mood changer food is. And so when you go without and you change what you're eating, I think it's a great opportunity for really people to start noticing how the food they usually eat affects them, and oftentimes in a very negative way. So I would encourage them to journal throughout the process and what it's like. Yeah.
Love it.
Yes. Thank you so much, Robyn. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful tools that you're offering people. Thank you so much for doing that. I encourage anyone listening. We'll put the links in the show notes so you can go and check it out and get these free resources. And if you are inspired, there's a reason you're inspired, because it probably means there's some benefit for you there. But like Robyn said, talk to your doctor if you have any concerns before you do it, to make sure that you are medically cleared to do it. And enjoy. And I'd love to hear your comments, and I'm sure Robyn would, about what benefits you've noticed with the fasting mimicking. Are you tracking everyone who gets your freebies?
No, we're tracking everyone who does our specific modified fasting plan. We don't have we don't have a way of tracking people if they're going to kind of go. They're going to follow that eating plan. They can, but we're not tracking the folks who do.
Okay. So yeah. Well, thank you so much, Robyn, and we will tell everyone how they can get more information, and go ahead and, do you want to tell the links, and we'll make sure to put them in the show notes?
I don't have the links off the top of my head. I would imagine you're going to put them on your website. But it's GreenSmoothieGirl.com is where you can find me. I'm also Green Smoothie Girl on Facebook, and my podcast is called Vibe.
Yes, great. Well, everybody is definitely encouraged to go check it out, and we will put the links. And thank you so much for sharing your experience and expertise on modified fasting.
My pleasure.